He's going up the right sideline. He's got a man. Oh, my goodness. That's how we do it. Now sit him down. We ready for the regular season touchdown, Dontavian Wicks. Oh, that's what we do. We just score touchdowns. 3 plays, touchdown. That's how they roll.
Oh, spectacular reaction in real time to Dontavian Wicks' touchdown connection with Jordan Love in the Packers exhibition opener on Saturday at Cleveland Browns Stadium. We're happy to be joined on the Drew and KB extravaganza by Aaron Nagler of Cheesehead TV. All season long, our Packers experts are presented by Rogers Behavioral Health, Orthopedic Associates of Wisconsin, Miller Lite, and Hildebrand Law. Nags, you're in mid-season form.
Well, so is Jordan Love, apparently. I mean,
apparently.
You just set him up, I'll knock him down. That's how great is it, too, because Jordan was asked last week prior to their, travel to Cleveland. Well, if you come out and you take care of business, does that mean you don't have to play for the rest of the preseason? And he was like, at that point, he was like, hopefully. I don't think he really thought they were going to go 3 plays and he would be done for the night, but certainly looked to be in midseason form.
I like the my work is done here. I like that quite a bit.
Essentially, I mean, there's a little more that you really need to prove. Now, I do think Matt will probably have him out there for the next preseason game, given what he said regarding, years past and maybe coming out the gate a little sluggish on offense. And then you look at Jordan and company playing as much as they did last preseason and then coming out in Chicago and looking at least serviceable. They had kind of a drag there in the middle of the game, but for the most part, there was much more production and productive from the offense than we've seen in those years towards the end with Aaron Rodgers, where the offense barely played at all.
I liked the fact that they came back when Clifford was out there and ran that same play in the following sequence.
Right. I mean, look,
I love that.
You're trying to get a look at everybody, right? And you want to see how guys respond, how they react, how they're able to, maybe make something happen against a different look, because you've got to think the Cleveland Browns are trying to get a look at their defensive players all the way up and down their depth chart with different looks, coverages, etc. How does Clifford react to that? How do the guys with the 2s and 3s react to it? It's great stuff. I'm just happy that football's back.
Football is back. So, Nags, that play, it made me think Dontavian Wicks, when he ran the 40, was like a 4.62, but he was
it's
injured.
A brutal 40 time. It's a brutal 40 time,
and
which
he's
is
fast.
Why he fell as far as he did in the draft, right? But
Yes.
I think that is a perfect example of play speed, football play speed, as opposed to just time speed. It's a very real thing.
He had a hip injury, and now he just scorched a safety who ended up going to the medical tent with a hamstring problem right after that play. And it's
yes, exactly.
Okay, so I think the rest of the league will now put it in their notes not to put a safety on Dontavian Wicks.
Well, especially if you're going to go cover one. What's nice about that play, too, is the work that Jordan Love does with his eyes to bring the safety to the opposite side of the field initially, and then in rhythm, hit that top of his drop, hitch, and then go ball perfectly placed. It might have been an extended handoff for all we care. It's just a perfect execution from the quarterback and really the entire offense.
All right, so other than Marshawn Lloyd's hamstring issue, the Packers escaped, and the only goal for me in preseason games is avoid injury.
Yes.
That's goal one.
Number one.
Score,
No
who cares? Evaluate players, yes, but avoid injury is goal number one. So they were clean on that front. And then we started to see some injuries pop around. The Browns had a couple guys go out during the game. But Nags, what stood out to you in terms of the entire operation? We focus on Jordan Love in those 3 plays. Josh Jacobs, 3 plays. Well, he touched the ball twice.
Right.
Put his
productive with his one run.
But what stood out to you?
You're looking at the down the roster guys, right? Because this is the most you're probably going to get to see many of them. Although there are guys fighting for starting jobs that I thought acquitted themselves quite well. Guys fighting for roster spots. Some played extremely well. Some, I think, kind of stubbed their toe, and they'll have an opportunity to redeem themselves, so to speak, with some of these joint practices and the preseason games left on the schedule. But the 2 that really jumped out to me were Evan Williams, the rookie safety, and Grant Dubose, the second-year wide receiver. I mean, I don't think anybody came away from that game looking at those 2 players thinking anything other than, they got a couple of players here, guys who have not contributed to the Green Bay Packers as of yet, but it certainly looks like they're poised to. Now, they got to keep doing it. Like, you can have that game, and it's great. And Evan Williams in particular, I think, has had a really strong camp. But you got to keep doing it. You've set the standard, right? That's the old coaching kind of joke, somewhat joke, is that, okay, you've put that on tape. Now we expect it every single day. And that's really the key. That's the trick. Well, you can have a great game, you can be really productive. It's exciting to see, but are you going to do that every single week? And that's where these guys have to start separating themselves.
Talking with Aaron Nagler, Cheesehead TV here. Game ball to Nags, Hunter. Let's give a game ball to Nags because yesterday I went to the Wisconsin State Fair and I was proudly sporting my Carry the G t-shirt, which arrived.
Armin's taking the night shift these days.
So shout out to you. I got some compliments on that as well.
There you go. That's what I like to hear.
Good to hear
you carrying the G out there. I'm always glad to hear it.
Did he give you a discount?
I didn't get a discount. I just bought it like everybody else off the street. I didn't hit him up for
freebies.
I'm just teasing. When have I ever begged you for anything other than just to talk to me once?
Yes. All right. All right. So fashion aside, all right, Nags, let's talk about the Packers defense because the Jeff Hafley scheme, everybody's being vanilla and stuff. What looked different to you? Who stood out? And will we see the Packers rank above 35th in defensive backs blitzing off the edges in the 2024 season?
That's the thing. I think we'll see a lot more defensive backs in the box. We saw some of that on Saturday. Like you say, they're going to keep everything hyper vanilla. They're going to run some really simplistic stuff. But you saw really all three of the main kind of safeties in competition with each other to be opposite Xavier McKinney. You saw each of them with an opportunity down in the box on a handful of occasions, whether it was Devon Bullard, the aforementioned Evan Williams. But I thought Anthony Johnson Jr. played a really strong game. And that's a guy who's probably not getting as much pub, as much run as it is. But I thought he played extremely well, extremely physical. As far as if you are going to be that guy down in the box, there are going to be occasions where you're going to have to take on that tight end or even maybe a tackle. And you've got to be able to stick your nose in there and be part of the solution when it comes to stopping the run instead of getting run over. And I thought on that part, especially, he really acquitted himself quite well.
Is Hafley's scheme going to be easier to grasp than Joe Barry's? Is it just like I saw Devontae Wyatt playing with joy and abandon, and it's like
that's the trick, right? I think for the guys up front, it sounds very simplistic what they're asking them to do.
Get up the field,
get up the field, and I love what they described kind of in the offseason. You saw, I think, the beginnings of that on Saturday. We're going to stop the run, but we're going to do it on our way to the quarterback. Right? Like there is no reading the gaps, trying to control the A and B gap. You are just shooting those gaps. You are getting upfield. And to your point, I thought Devontae Wyatt looked, I'm not going to say reborn, but it looked like this is exactly what he should be doing. I don't need him absorbing double teams. He was breaking up double teams in that game. There were at least 3 snaps where the quarterback had to get rid of the ball because Devontae Wyatt was bursting through a double team.
And let's take a look at the division. There are 2 quarterbacks that
going to be some young guys.
You got to say, hey,
young guys,
beat me. We're going to come at you. We're going to come at you hard. Beat me if you can.
And what's great about that is you don't have to commit resources to it. Like you're going to use it, like it being the blitz or trying to send heavy pressure. You're going to use that as a changeup. But more often than not, if you're able to get home with those 4 guys, just telling them get upfield, shoot those gaps, create havoc, and get after the quarterback. Well, now you're being able to do all sorts of stuff on the back end. Again, to these young quarterbacks that you're going to have their heads swimming, hopefully. I mean, obviously, at the end of the day, it's still football. And these guys, are obviously professionals. They're going to have coaching. They're going to have, game plans to help them out. But the ability to kind of put doubt in their heads about what they're seeing while only having to rush 4 guys should really, really help the defense.
And we saw Devontae Wyatt creating some space for Lucas Van Ness to be the guy that they drafted in the first round. And
yes, sir.
I watched him.
What a game.
Saturday night, I thought, here's the year 2 leap that we're talking about. And I don't think it's hyperbole to think, he's another guy who last year was kind of on his heels, like reading, reacting, and now he's just playing.
Well, there's some times when they're dropping him. There's some times when he is being asked to get around the edge. But I thought, to your point, he was a man with a hair on fire on Saturday. And I think what's going to be fascinating to watch is how they utilize this rotation up front. Because I do think, especially at edge, they go 4 deep. I think Barry has been really good this camp as well. And you put him along with Preston Smith and Rashawn Gary, you start rotating these guys. And we've started to see some of these edge guys be utilized inside. Not only Lucas Van Ness, but Brenton Cox as well have started to do some inside rushing, looping around, etc. It's the ability to come at you with waves along that defensive front, keep those guys fresh. So you have a, fresh-legged Kenny Clark in the fourth quarter, able to kind of close things out. That's what I think they're probably hoping they can accomplish. And like I said, long way to go, but the early returns look really promising for this group.
How did you like the kickoffs in game situation?
Oh, Lord.
Yeah.
I love that they call it dynamic. Like they've tried to make it exciting by naming it something sounding like it might be interesting. But man, I just think it's boring. The guys have to stand still until the dude catches it. I think on the weekend, the average starting position wasn't much greater than it has been. When we all know the kickoff has become a really boring play, it feels like they've made it more boring. And I understand that it is because of player safety. And of course, I am all for that. But I still think, even as drastically different as it is, we're still heading towards just eliminating the kickoff. That's what it screams to me after watching a week of it.
Bill and I talked about that on Packers OT because there wasn't a lot else to chew on. Well, we chewed on as much as we could because our post-game show was about as long as the game. But we talked about that, Nags, and it's like, remember Mason Crosby at the end of his career when they were thinking about, we might have to give a guy for kickoffs because he doesn't have the leg anymore. That's going to extend careers. Like he's like Hardcourt retired, and now the Brewers are playing 2-hour, 5-minute games, and he would have had another 5 years in him if they'd have done that.
And he would have been perfect for placing the ball at the 5, right? I mean, right in the landing zone. That's where you're supposed to kick it. I just loved on the opening kickoff. I know the Browns had their backup kicker, like they're trying to showcase him, like for the rest of the league, essentially. And they were all talking up this, dynamic kickoff, and homeboy puts it right into the end zone. Yep. Like, here we go, our first opportunity, and we get a touchback.
And we get a touchback, of course. Talking to Aaron Nagler, Cheesehead TV here, our Monday guest, our Monday Packers expert. Okay, Nags, speaking of kicking, seems to me, reading the tea leaves, and we've been at practice, and it's been a neck-and-neck battle, but it seems to me Anders Carlson still has the leg up, no pun intended, and that he's going to make the squad. Am I wrong?
You think so?
I think so.
You think so? Wow, that's not how I read it. I don't read it like
a draft pick, man.
He's a draft pick, but I still think
Greg
Joseph's clearly been better. Don't you?
Yeah, well, I mean, then you're getting into style points of Carlson's kicks were just.
Well, I'm not even. I've seen that discourse online. Like, Joseph's kicks were just straight down the middle and much cleaner, much more forceful. I guess confident looking. I guess you could say. Carlson has kind of squeaked a few in, but I just think on the whole, Joseph's had a better camp, and I don't think being a draft pick is going to save him. Carlson, that is. I understand your thinking there, and I certainly, when Billy and I were talking about this offseason, we had kind of a gentleman's bet. I said if things are even, Carlson makes it, no question. But things aren't even. I don't think they're
close to being even, though.
Been better. I think after family night, there was a little question, but I think if you look, and this is what they always talk about, right? The totality of the work. If you look at everything they've done throughout the offseason, man, I don't know how you look at it any other way than Joseph's ahead at this point. Now we've got 2 weeks to go. Any lot can happen, but
the thing is though, you have these you get these crushes in August, and now
that's true,
and it's the old let's look at Emmanuel Wilson, right? Oh, he's awesome, Mr. August, right?
Here we go again, right?
And if it comes down to it, like I don't think they're cutting AJ Dillon. I think they're
I don't either because no one's picking Wilson up, so you can easily place him on the practice squad. Like I understand that Wilson had a good game. He most certainly did. But let's not pretend like AJ Dillon had much help up front, if any. Like I get people are frustrated because like he's running into a wall, but that's the wall's problem. It's not his fault.
Yeah, I have to say, in real time, and I did go back and watch those plays, and there was nothing. The line gave him nothing. But in real time, I'm thinking, okay, if he's going to get that many cracks in a short yardage situation, and like, what's he on the team for if he can't pick that up? That's what he's here for.
I feel it. But the man cannot take apart all his molecules and put himself forward and then reanimate himself. Like he's got to run through a space, and there was nothing there.
I agree. So with young Mr. Lloyd, that level 1 to 10, your level of concern that he might not be ready for week 1, and that might create a spot for.
Yeah, look, even if he's not ready, week one. We've seen this before. We all know where this is headed. If you're a Packers fan, if you're an astute Packers fan and you know your history, we all know what's going to happen here. He's going to be, pretty much a non-factor, maybe on the practice squad, somewhat of a red shirt first half of the season, right? And then we're going to get into the second half of the year. They're going to be in the playoff race. He's going to be called upon, come up off the bench. Maybe an injury has prompted his ascension to the 53-man roster. And then he gets out there on game day, and he has a James Starks-like run to help them go win a championship.
I like that.
See,
I like that.
It's all falling into place.
All right, Nags, we've covered a lot of ground. The first section, and the Browns didn't play anybody, so we we overreact to everything, and that's our first game we've had in 205 days or whatever it was, and so we have to overreact.
You got to feast on it, no doubt.
But on the way out, I got to ask you about Keyshawn Nixon's tweet and clapping back at people who were ripping him.
Mm-hmm.
Your thoughts about that, because it just shows we like to think of our smart, good-looking listeners and Packers fans in general of having an elevated sense of football IQ, but in some circles that's not the case.
Well, it's just look. I kind of touched on this on Twitter this morning. I saw his tweet, and clearly he's seen chatter about his coverage ability, where he falls in the pecking order as far as the defensive secondary, etc. And for those of you maybe not on Twitter, you very smart people out there, he said, I'm the nickel, deal with it. He's the nickel back. And I understand where he's coming from, seeing people rip on him. He's going to defend himself. I'm all for that. I got no issue with that. What I do have an issue with is these anonymous people who go online and really go after guys, whether it is even their job performance, but even personally, that's just loser behavior. Have your talks about he's not playing well, you don't think he does this well, etc. I get all that. You're a sports fan, you're welcome to it. But when you attack guys directly online from an anonymous account, you are a loser. You are a total loser. I have no time for you.
Welcome to our talk and text line.
Right?
There's a lot of that out
there. But then, see, even that, but that's a fan expressing themselves to another fan. I get, we're having chatter back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
But to do it directly at a guy from an anonymous account, you are a coward and a loser. That's it.
Yeah, Twitter fingers, right? We've heard that before.
Nags, if I could, I'm just going to deviate because we've never had this before. You know how sometimes you get hit with, spam, and we have a chat thing that comes up on where we StreamYard you, and I just wanted. I think this is a public service announcement because we've got one that says. Mm-hmm. Daddy, please, I beg you in the name of Jesus, help me with anything you have. They've kidnapped my wife and baby, and they request $2 million. Please. So I'm just sending that out there. Someone,
we'll make that happen. We'll get right on that.
We're on it.
Right when we respond to the Nigerian prince.
That's exactly it.
That's where we're coming from. We'll get it. Next, anything else to leave us with this week in terms of content? We know that the frontline guys aren't going to play because their game is Friday on the practice field. Right.
Yeah,
so,
the all the stuff coming out of the joint practices, that's what's to pay attention. That's what fans should be paying attention to. Preseason games are great for the bottom of the roster guys, and those are the ones we'll probably obsess over for the next 2 weeks. But none of it, and I mean none of it, as far as the preseason goes, means anything in regards to what the Packers are going to do starting week 1 down in Brazil. I understand we're excited that football's back and we kind of pour over the tape and everybody starts making wild proclamations. But man, the regular season comes along and everyone just kind of has to recalibrate because what we're seeing now is so vanilla. There's no game planning. Things are really run basic, the lowest of the basic stuff. I understand it's happy. It's happy times. We're all really happy football's back, but a lot of ball game left. Just
the preseason is a mirage.
We got it's not a sprint. It is very much a marathon. This NFL season.
I'm with you. Nags, great run today. Thanks for hanging out with us. We will talk to you next week, and we'll be following Cheesehead TV, of course, with all your.
Talk to you next week, guys. Thanks so much, guys. Talk to you next week.